You are fire. They can't put you out. They can't even get close to you without melting. Stay lit.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show on the Mike Armstrong Speaker YouTube channel, part of the 30-day YouTube channel growth challenge I've set myself. This is episode 15, so I'm nearly halfway there now, and I've enjoyed the challenge. It's difficult to cram everything in like most challenges are. Usually time management challenges more than anything else, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying sharing what I've learned and what I think with my audience, and hopefully looking to grow the audience, and definitely getting my watch hours up on YouTube, which is working, so I'm enjoying that, and picking up some new subscribers as well, so all's good. So today I'm going to talk about government control and freedom versus chaos, really. My thought of the day is about, I think the government in general has too much control of our lives. I think they treat adults like children and get involved in every aspect of their life. And I think they should pull it back a bit. It does look like Labour at the moment is trying to do that a little bit, cut back some red tape, etc. But I think there's a balance to be had between freedom and chaos. We don't want chaos, but we do want freedom. And sometimes we've got to have some rules and regulations, etc., to prevent chaos. And that does limit away the freedoms. But, I'm an entrepreneur, and I think the government is too fat. It wastes a lot of money. And, we're better off cutting away as much of it as possible and, saving the money, really. Because the thing is, politicians, they go into politics because they're not very good at anything else a lot of the time. They used to go into it because they were cause-led. They had issues they wanted to deal with, but now they go into it as a business, as a career. But they're not very good at business or entrepreneurship. If they were good, they'd be in the commercial world a lot of the time. So they go in, average people go in. They're not very good at doing what they want. They're sometimes career politicians. They've never learned anything outside of politics. They get ripped off by clever sales guys. They spend too much money. They pay over the odds. They change their mind halfway through and waste a load of money on the first bit before completing. They're just not very good people to be running a country, which is ultimately a business. They don't know how to make money because all the money's given to them or given to them through taxes. And because they haven't had to earn that money, they waste it very easily, easy come, easy go. Whereas, entrepreneurs, etc., if you've worked hard to get money in, you're much more cautious about, spending it and making sure you don't, waste it, because you know how hard it is to bring in. They don't have that learning in the political world, so they just waste money on new IT systems that they scrap, and new road systems that they scrap, and new railway systems that they scrap, and new apps that they scrap. They just don't have a clue what they're doing, really, and they waste all our money. So that's why I'm in favour of just cutting back and saving the money and taxing people less, and letting companies in the corporate world pick up the slack where government, doesn't control it, Also, I think, freedoms, like ultimately, I understand them trying to save money for the NHS, because the NHS is a massive organisation that's out of control, but it's beyond fixing, I think, really, the NHS. It's just hemorrhaging money. But, because of the costs of the NHS spiralling all of the time, they're always trying to, put money into it to try and sort it. But he's probably cutting up and put into different type of organisations that are smaller, easier to control, because it's just a massive mammoth ship with no one steering it. And it's out of control, and it costs a lot of money. And so, they tax you for everything. And because they're trying to, make money, the government they don't treat you like adults. They try and tax you on everything, hidden taxes and wherever. So they tell you they're taxing you here and there, etc. There's so many taxes, it's all stealth. They're just trying to grab as much money as they can so they can cover this massive NHS, which is out of control. And then because they're trying to save money as well, it's just they tell you what you can and can't do, or don't eat this, don't eat that, don't smoke this, don't. And I think people and human beings should be allowed to, make adult choices, as long as their choices don't affect other people. Then, they shouldn't be told what they can and can't do by the government. But the government is getting more and more involved in telling people how to live their life, etc. And I don't really agree with it. I think when you're an adult, as long as you don't affect and hurt anyone else, then you should be free to do what you want, really. As long as there's no impact on others. But the government is obsessed with getting into more and more areas of life, and that's why the government just grows and grows and grows, and half the time nobody knows what these guys are doing. But they're getting paid a lot of money, and they're claiming their expenses as well, and fiddling and cash in hand and all that sort of stuff. It's just a really dark, murky world of politics, and I don't really like it. That's why another reason why I think there should be less of them. I think they should rip up the system because it doesn't really work, and implement a new, more streamlined, better system. Start again, really. Rip up the rule book and start again. Another thing I don't like about politics is that, you really vote in one person to be the Prime Minister or whatever, or the leader, and you don't vote for anyone else, and then they just put whoever they want to in charge, usually their friends who've got no experience, and these people are running important departments and they've got no experience of doing so. So I myself would prefer, a system where maybe each party put a candidate forward for every position, so for Prime Minister, for Home Secretary, Defence Secretary, etc., and you voted for each position, and whoever had the most votes had the position. That way then the best person is more likely to get into the job, and then they're going to be able to do a better job than just putting some random people in charge of a department and expecting them to know what it's all about and be able to make a difference and do something of benefit. Because half the time the reason these guys get put into positions, they're moved around all the time, etc., is because they haven't got a clue what they're doing. I'd much rather put somebody who's been 40, 50 years in an industry, in defence, in the military, in charge of defence, or in the hospitals in charge of the NHS, somebody who knows what they're doing, rather than just some crony who happens to be a friend of someone else who got voted as the top job. I think the whole system is just nonsense. Nobody would take over as managing director of a company and then put, the tea lady in charge of sales, and the office boy in charge of running the finance department, etc. But that's what happens with government. It's just all crazy, so I don't really vote, I don't really care, I'm not really interested in politicians. All I'm interested in trying to get rid of as many as possible, get rid of the red tape, etc., because it costs us as a society more and more money to look after these idiots who do nothing with it. So it's a waste of time. Plus, I also think there's certain parts of the political system, like roads and that, which should be separate from party politics. They should have a committee made up of different people from each party that are committed to long-term projects. Because what happens is we change parties every so often, etc. And these long-term projects, which take a long time to implement, at just about implementation stage, they get scrapped. And so you end up wasting all of that time, etc. Whereas at least if they had cross-party support for long-term projects, and if one party left and the other one come in, at least these long-term projects would stay in position, and we wouldn't end up wasting a lot of our money. If you look at how much money the government wastes, it's ridiculous. So that's my thoughts really on politics. I think there's a whole load of rubbish at the moment, and I think somebody needs to mention that, and so I'm happy to mention it. I think the whole system should be ripped up and started again, and should be implemented in a way that actually benefits the people of the UK, rather than just the big cost to the people of the UK, especially entrepreneurs who often pick up most of the tabs for these things. Also, another thing is they've made it almost impossible as entrepreneurs to grow a business from small to medium or large. You have to sort of jump straight from small to medium or straight to large. You can't be just small and growing, because the cost of everything, minimum wage, pensions, all the red tape, etc. The cost of everything means you can't really afford to take people on, while you're a small business. You need to be a big business to be able to carry the cost of all of these things. So They need to look at, clever ways of. I understand there needs to be a minimum wage. I get that, and I don't disagree with that. I understand that really it makes sense, especially for the pension black hole that's coming, for companies to pay a pension, etc. But there should be some sort of scheme to encourage and help smaller businesses to be able to take on staff and grow, so that they can get to a certain size before a lot of these things affect them. So yeah, there's some of my thoughts on politics and entrepreneurship, and some of the reasons why I think there's too much and it's a big waste of money, and we should end up with a better system. But while it's as broken as it is and as rubbish it is, I really don't get involved in it. I don't really care about the government and politics and all of that. Unless, at some point I get interactions with them, which I do as a citizen every now and then. They fine me for something or charge me for something because I parked in the wrong place or driven through a clean air zone that I shouldn't have done. And I just, pay their hidden staff tax and move on. But other than that, I try not to get involved in them. I don't really care what they're doing and saying, and I don't really want to know about how they're wasting our money. I just wish that at some point in the future the system changed and politicians were actually of benefit to people once again. That's all I want to say on the subject matter, really. Nothing else to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.